The Zerothian command ship hovered above Earth, a monolithic vessel that dwarfed the blue planet beneath it. Inside, General Kryax stood with an air of superiority, his emerald-scaled skin glinting under the dim, cold light of the war room. Surrounding him, holographic displays projected images of Earth's military assets, jets, warships, and tanks, primitive and laughable by Zerothian standards. "These relics," Kryax sneered, gesturing at a projection of an Abrams tank rolling through a desert. His voice dripped with condescension as he addressed his officers. "This is the best they can muster. Fossil-fueled contraptions built for a war fought centuries ago. We will crush them without breaking a sweat." The officers chuckled, their mandibles clicking in amusement. Their confidence stemmed from their own war machines, sleek, gravity-defying tanks equipped with plasma cannons that could vaporize an armored column in a single strike. Their shields were impervious to any kinetic or explosive force Earth could possibly deploy. To them, humanity's defenses were no more threatening than sticks and stones. "General," one officer said, pointing to a spike in the energy readings displayed on a console. "We've detected an anomaly. A high-energy signature localized to their armored units." Kryax waved a dismissive claw. "Their machines spit fire and smoke. Let them try. It will only make their defeat more humiliating." The Zerothians prided themselves on domination through sheer technological superiority. They had subjugated countless civilizations, each one falling faster than the last. Earth would be no different, they assumed. Their sensors scanned Earth's surface, analyzing and cataloging every military asset. The Abrams tanks, with their clunky appearance and traditional armor, were filed under non-threat. Yet, the energy anomaly lingered on the reports, a faint flicker that refused to fade. A junior analyst hesitated before speaking up. "General, it's persistent. Perhaps we should investigate." "I said it's irrelevant," Kryax interrupted, his tone icy. "Do not waste my time with trivialities. Begin the invasion sequence. Let's show these primitives what true power looks like." The war room buzzed with activity as the Zerothian fleet prepared its first strike. Kryax stood in silence, watching the holographic Earth rotate before him. To him, this planet and its people were another mark of conquest. Another victory to celebrate. Yet, beneath his confidence, there was a small, nearly imperceptible hesitation, a flicker of curiosity about the energy signature they had dismissed. He banished the thought. Humanity was a young, ignorant species. Their machines were outdated, their strategies crude, and their spirit irrelevant in the face of overwhelming force. Whatever anomaly had appeared would fall just as easily as the rest of Earth's pitiful defenses. "Begin," Kryax ordered, and the war drums of the Zerothian fleet roared to life. The air was tense at Fort Valiant, a sprawling military base on the outskirts of the Nevada desert. Soldiers moved with purpose, loading munitions, running diagnostics on vehicles, and preparing for what many feared would be humanity's final stand. Amid the chaos stood Captain Sarah Daniels, her weathered face a map of battles fought and won. She leaned against the cold steel of an Abrams tank, her hand resting on its hull as though drawing strength from it. Sarah's voice cut through the din as she addressed her team. "I'm not going to sugarcoat this. The odds are against us. Those things up there," she nodded toward the alien ships visible in the sky, "are more advanced than anything we've ever faced. But we've been here before, outgunned and outnumbered. And every time, we've found a way." Her words resonated with the crew. The Abrams, standing silent but imposing, symbolized more than just a weapon. It was history, legacy, and defiance forged in steel. The soldiers around her nodded, their fear tempered by the unwavering belief in their machines and each other. "Remember what makes us different," Sarah continued. "They rely on tech, on systems they think are infallible. But we adapt. We improvise. And we don't quit." Nearby, technicians worked on the tanks, ensuring every system was functional. These Abrams weren't ordinary, they had been outfitted with cutting-edge upgrades, including reinforced reactive armor, enhanced targeting systems, and an experimental EMP weapon designed specifically for the alien threat. It was untested in combat, but it was their best shot. Private Andrews, the youngest in the unit, looked up at Sarah. "Do you think this'll work?" Captain? Against them? Sarah's gaze didn't waver. It's not about what I think, Andrews. It's about what we do. Those aliens think they know everything. They think we're weak. Let's show them just how wrong they are. The briefing continued, with Sarah laying out the strategy. The Abrams tanks would act as the spearhead, drawing the aliens into close-quarters combat where their advanced weaponry would be less effective. The EMP cannon would be their trump card, but timing its use would be critical. The soldiers listened intently, absorbing every word, every nuance. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the desert, the tanks rolled out. Their engines roared, a defiant challenge to the invaders overhead. Soldiers climbed into their vehicles, their faces a mix of determination and grim resolve. Sarah climbed into her own tank, her hand lingering on the controls. Let's remind them, she muttered under her breath, why humanity survives. The convoy moved into the desert, the Abrams tanks cutting through the dark like phantoms. Overhead, the alien ships began their descent, their lights bathing the ground in an eerie glow. The stage was set. Earth's defenders, armed with nothing but their grit and ingenuity, were ready to face the unknown. The first strike came with devastating force. Alien grave tanks descended from their ships, hovering effortlessly above the desert floor. They moved with unnerving precision, their plasma cannons tearing through Earth's static defenses in seconds. The Zerothians advanced without resistance, their confidence growing as explosions lit the night. Then the Abrams arrived. Emerging from the shadows of the terrain, their engines roared like ancient beasts awakened from slumber. Sarah's voice crackled over the comms. Formation Delta. Stay tight, keep moving. Make them work for it. The alien tanks turned, their targeting systems locking onto the approaching human column. Plasma bolts screamed through the air, but the Abrams had already scattered, using the uneven terrain for cover. The first shots missed, striking harmlessly against the desert floor. Fire at will, Sarah commanded. The Abrams opened up, their 120mm cannons sending tungsten rounds screaming through the air. The first shot struck an alien grave tank, and while its shield absorbed most of the impact, the sheer kinetic force forced it backward. Another volley followed, and the shield began to falter, flickering as it struggled to sustain itself. Target their flanks, Sarah barked. They can't cover every angle. The Abrams crews worked like clockwork, firing and repositioning in a deadly game of cat and mouse. Their rounds couldn't pierce the shields outright, but they created openings, forcing the aliens to reposition and overextend. One Abrams crew managed to exploit a gap in the shield coverage, landing a direct hit on a grave tank's propulsion unit. The alien machine spun out of control before slamming into the ground, its plasma core erupting in a fiery explosion. Inside his command vessel, General Cryax's smug expression faltered. Impossible, he hissed, his claws tightening around the edges of the control panel. How are they countering us? General, an officer stammered, their units are exploiting shield vulnerabilities. Their tactics are. Enough. Cryax roared. Deploy reinforcements. Overwhelm them. More alien tanks descended, their plasma fire intensifying. The ground shook as explosions erupted around the Abrams, but the human crews didn't falter. They maneuvered with precision, using speed and strategy to outwit their technologically superior foes. EMP cannon ready, Sarah's gunner reported. Do it, she replied. A low hum filled the tank as the experimental weapon powered up. With a deafening pulse, the EMP blast rippled through the battlefield, momentarily disabling the shields of several alien grave tanks. The Abrams crews didn't hesitate. They fired in unison, their rounds tearing through the now vulnerable alien machines. One by one, the grave tanks exploded in bursts of blue flame. The tide was turning, but the cost was high. Several Abrams lay smoldering, their crews fighting to survive against overwhelming odds. Sarah's tank pushed forward, drawing fire to protect the remaining units. We're not done yet, she muttered, locking onto another target. For the first time, the Zerothians hesitated. Their once unshakable dominance was crumbling, and fear began to seep into their ranks. The battlefield was a smoldering wasteland, littered with the wreckage of both alien grave tanks and Abrams. The acrid scent of burning metal hung in the air as the fighting reached a crescendo. Alien forces, once confident in their unassailable superiority, were now retreating in disarray. Their precision formations had fractured under the relentless assault, and their casualties were mounting. Inside his command vessel, General Kryax watched in stunned silence. The human tanks, battered and scarred, were still advancing. Their tactics were unpredictable, their resilience incomprehensible. Every maneuver, every counterattack, seemed to defy logic. "How is this possible?" he muttered, his arrogance now replaced with disbelief. Back on the ground, Sarah's tank led the charge. The experimental EMP cannon had forced the aliens onto the defensive, and her team was determined to exploit the advantage. Plasma bolts streaked past her vehicle, close enough to rattle the interior, but she stayed focused. "Stay tight," she called over the comms. "They're desperate now. Don't give them an opening." The remaining Abrams tanks moved like a pack of wolves, encircling the alien forces and cutting off their escape routes. Another alien grave tank attempted to lift off, its engines humming as it tried to retreat, but a well-placed shot from Sarah's gunner took it down. The alien machine crashed to the ground, its plasma core erupting in a fiery explosion. "Target neutralized," her gunner said, his voice steady despite the chaos. The alien forces began to break, their formations crumbling as their remaining units scrambled to retreat. On the alien command ship, Kryax clenched his claws. He could see the writing on the wall. His fleet's superiority meant nothing against an enemy that refused to yield. "Order the withdrawal," he growled, his voice filled with bitterness. "These humans, they're not like the others." As the alien ships began to ascend, their retreat evident, a cheer erupted among the surviving human forces. The battle wasn't without its cost, many tanks lay in ruins, their crews lost in the fight, but humanity had held the line. Sarah stepped out of her tank, her boots crunching against the scorched ground. She surveyed the battlefield, her expression a mix of exhaustion and pride. The Abrams that remained were scarred but operational, a testament to the engineering and determination that had brought them victory. A soldier approached her, his face streaked with dirt and sweat. "Captain, we did it. They're pulling back." Sarah nodded, her gaze fixed on the retreating alien ships. "We gave them something to remember. Let's make sure they don't forget." As the alien fleet disappeared into the sky, the surviving soldiers began to regroup. The Abrams tanks, their armor blackened and dented, stood as silent sentinels against the devastation. They had been underestimated, mocked, and dismissed, but they had proven their worth. Humanity had survived, not through superior technology, but through ingenuity, resilience, and an unyielding will to fight. And the aliens, once so confident, now knew that Earth was no easy conquest.